All right, hello and welcome to our virtual meetup. I'm Trish McCall, Senior Director of HPCC Systems, and we are delighted to have so many of you around the globe, it seems, according to the registrations, sign up today. Whether you are a student, faculty, LexisNexis employee, or just someone who is interested. We are glad you are here and looking forward to spending the next hour with you. So HPCC Systems is our big data analytics platform, which is available as open source, as you know, and one of our ongoing initiatives is to further build our community of users and adopters. And as part of that effort, we've established an academic program where our team works with universities and schools to promote the use of HPCC systems by offering student opportunities. And more importantly, the reason why you are here today is internships. So on that note, I would like to introduce our speaker, Hugo Watanuki, Manager Community Tech Programs, who has strong collaborations with our academic partners. He has helped grow our community in Brazil, and he now oversees our HPC Systems Internship Program. He holds a PhD in Management Information Systems and has a wealth of knowledge from his 15 years of experience working in IT with a focus on high performance computing. So Hugo, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Trish, for the introduction. And thank you everyone once again for attending this info session about the HPCC Systems Internship Program. I'm really glad to have you here today and see such a interesting participation. And I really hope you will enjoy the content. So although this presentation is about the internship program itself, I would like to start talking a little bit about what our company does and also a bit about our core technology. Just because I think that these two elements together help set better the context for the internship program. And our main goal here today, of course, is to make sure that you have all the information you need to join this program, okay? So just so you know, I have here slide content for more or less 30 minutes of presentation. So there is ample time for questions. Feel free to ask your questions throughout the presentation using the Q&A feature on the Teams. And we will also have some time for Q&A after the presentation as well. Okay, so remember, this is your opportunity to clarify any questions you might have, right? So with no further ado, let's get started here talking about what LexisNexis Risk Solutions does to start with, okay? So whenever someone asks me, what do we do? I usually like to bring up a practical example to illustrate what our core business is, okay? So let's pretend, for instance, that we are working for a car insurance company and we are trying to investigate a series of suspicious insurance claims, right? For instance, because these car accidents share an unusual common pattern, such as occurring within, I don't know, the same geographical location, or having an unusual number of individuals involved on them, which of course would lead to higher claims, right? But one of the first things we could try to do is see if those individuals associated with these car accidents are somehow related to each other. And we can start by building a graph like this, in which each car accident is represented by this red square, and the vertices on those edges represent the individuals involved on those car accidents, okay? But as you can see, by just doing this, we are actually not able to connect these car accidents except for this little vertex here, right? But what if we were able to congregate all this original data with some additional data? For instance, data containing the first and second degree relatives of these individuals, such as their parents, their siblings, cousins, etc. Maybe then we could end up building a much denser graph that now allow us to actually connect all those car accidents, right? But more importantly, I would say, we can now also see that apparently there are two main groups or families that are highlighted here in red orchestrating these car accidents. Okay, but they were clever enough to not involve individuals sharing the same household on those same car accidents, as they probably knew that the car insurance would have easily access to this type of data. Okay, and by the way, this is a real scenario, real situation that our company handled a few years ago, and it illustrates one of the activities that we do on a daily basis, more specifically in the fraud detection and prevention area. Okay. Now, but what is so special about doing this? It might sound sometimes trivial after we hear how this story ended, but the big challenge here is actually that the data to support such an analysis is most of the times not readily available, or at least not in the required format that we need it to be, okay? So how do companies go about it, all right? Well, usually to deal with this challenge, companies like us apply a data process that can be represented by a funnel like we are trying to illustrate in this slide. And what the data funnel does, it allows companies to ingest a large amount of the data, as we can see here on the left side, coming from different sources, such as, for example, public data sets available in the internet, free-form text from websites, blogs, newspapers, private databases, or even police records. Right? The funnel allows us to extract the individual elements contained within this data, such as information from individuals or about companies, which we call entities, clean this data so we can maintain only what we need, and then transform this data to make it standard, okay? Irrespective of its original source. Now, standardization here is important, so you can avoid situations that prevent you from analyzing or combining your data altogether, for instance. Let's say if you have names of individuals and they happen to be stored in uppercase format in one database, and you decide that this is the format you want to work with going forward, then the names of the individuals coming from the other data sources also need to be converted to uppercase. Same thing for addresses, phone numbers, and any other information related to these individuals. They need to be on the same format. But after you are done or doing this standardization, to be honest, you may end up realizing some interesting things. For instance, you can notice that now two individuals that were originally containing slightly different names coming from different data sources are actually sharing, I don't know, the same address information, the same phone number, and that might lead you to conclude that they actually have some form of relationship or are actually the same person sometimes, like I'm showing here on the last phase of this funnel. And here is the good thing about it. Once you have reached this stage, you may now be able to completely link your data, right? Resulting in a very rich and complex corpus of data that can support powerful analysis, as we have seen in the previous slides. Okay. So going forward, if you have any attributes from a certain person, let's say, for example, here, you have some attributes from a specific individual, and you can pass those attributes to this corpus of data, you may be able to extract all the other individuals that have some form of relationship with this person. In other words, you may be able to extract his or her social circle or his or her social network, okay? Now, why a funnel? Well, just because as you go through this process, as you go through these steps, you are actually decreasing the volume of this data. At the same time, you are increasing its quality, all right? In the big data world, sometimes we refer to this process as ETL, or extract, transform, and load. But guess what? Here is the important thing. HPCC systems is actually the open source technology that allows companies like us and many others to implement this data funnel or the ETL process efficiently, right? And HPCC systems, for those who are hearing the term for the first time, it stands for a high performance computing cluster. And you can think of it as a group of computers that together are running a very powerful software that allows companies to push data through this funnel efficiently. All right. So, well, we have covered several concepts, a lot of the business context. So let's just take a look and see if we have any questions so far. No? Okay. Thank you, Trish. Now, you might be wondering why I'm telling you all those details. I'm telling you all those details because if this is the technology ecosystem that you are interested in, this is the type of career you're pursuing, then the HPCC Systems Internship Program is the perfect fit for you. Because as part of this program, you will be able to work with big data if that's your aspiration. If you are more like a software engineer, you may be able to code in an open language. Remember, this is an open source technology. If you have aspirations to become a data scientist, you can improve our machine learning algorithms or maybe work on your own machine learning algorithm. And of course, if you have an aspiration to become a systems architect or maybe DevOps professional, you can work on the architecture layer and improve not only the efficiency that we have running that data funnel, but also deploying our technology. All right. Now, what is exactly the HPCC Systems Internship Program? I like to describe the program around its three core characteristics that I'm highlighting here on my screen. First of all, it's a 12-week paid program over the summer. So it usually happens between May and August of every year. And here is an important thing. It is mentor-based and focused on HPCC systems open source projects, which means you will not be working alone as part of this internship program. On the very first day, actually a couple of weeks before your very first day, we'll pair you with a mentor. So this person, usually an expert on HPCC systems, can follow through your progress and help you fulfill any knowledge gaps that may show up throughout the process. Okay. Last but not least, we are very flexible in terms of working options. So no matter if you're willing to work remotely or on-site, we can support both options. I would say more recently, after the pandemic, most of the interns are working or preferring to work remotely. But if for some reason you live nearby one of our main offices, for instance, Alpharetta, Georgia, and Boca Raton in Florida, we can also try to accommodate you on site if that's your a goal. Okay. Now, what are the prerequisites for joining or applying to the program? Basically two. First of all, you need to be a student from high school all the way through PhD. We don't have hard requirements around age, but as long as you are a student within this wide spectrum and you can work 40 hours a week during the summer, you fulfill the basic requirement. Second requirement is that this program is based on a proposal that you submit during your application, okay? And the main reason we ask you to submit this proposal is just to make sure we understand what are your aspirations as part of this program, and we want to make sure we have all the resources needed to make sure you achieve those goals, okay? I will come back to the proposal later in the slides, but I just wanted to highlight this is one of the main requirements for the application process. Now, very important, right now we are accepting submissions. So The submission deadline is usually the last week of March, and in 2023, it will be March the 19th to be more precise, okay? And although this slide tries to cover the internship characteristics from an overall perspective, if you need to know more details, for instance, if you need to know the whole history about around the internship program, access information from past years, details around proposals, be aware we have a very rich student wiki that you can access using this QR code right here, okay? And after the info session, we'll also send you a couple of links that you can use to navigate through this information. All right. Now, since we know now the main characteristics or what the HPCC Systems Internship Program is, let's take a look at some of the projects that students complete with us, okay? And then maybe we can have another pause for questions. So this first project here is actually from a student from our 2022 class. And his aspiration was to become a data scientist. So Arun, in this case, decided that he would like to give a try with our causality toolkit. Okay, so as part of our technology, we have a toolkit that helps data scientists to look at raw data and start making inferences about what elements are causing what effects. Okay, in this case, he took a data set from the Center of Disease Control and Prevention that contained records from individuals with diabetes. Okay? And that data set contained not only the information whether or not the individual had diabetes, but also some attributes from those individuals, such as age, weight, income. And as part of the data funnel process you guys have seen at the beginning of the presentation, he was able to clean this data, transform this data, and submit it as part of the causality toolkit. And he ended up building this causal model right here on the right side that associates all those attributes from those individuals and shows us which ones are actually causing diabetes on them, right? So again, one perspective that you can take from a project on top of HPCC systems. And in this case, of course, Arun was able to exercise much of his skills around math and statistics as well. Okay. Now, a second example that I selected here is also from a last year student. In this case, Ananya, a student originally from Nepal. She was interested in programming at most, and she realized that there were not many natural language processors for the Nepali language available, okay? So she came up with software on top of HPCC systems that leverages one of our NLP plugins, and she was able to build a Wiktionary that actually translates the Nepali characters into some meaningful concept. And she was able to deploy what we call digital human writers. So her software is now capable of parsing free-form text in Nepali language and actually extract the meaning of that text without human intervention. So very interesting type of outcome that contributes not only with Ananya's skill sets, but also for the whole culture in Nepal. Now, as part of this project, Ananya was able to not only acquire some programming skills, but also some skills in linguistics. So a very different perspective, if you will, from a project that you can submit as part of the internship with us. Okay. And last but not least, a project, I would say perhaps more traditional from the perspective of systems architecture. Yash, an intern from 2 years ago, if I recall correctly, he decided that he would like to explore our platform in one of the public cloud providers we have available, in this case, more specifically, Microsoft Azure. And he tried the platform using different combinations of storage options, network topologies, all available in Microsoft Azure. And he did all that analysis, keeping an eye on cost, right? Because if you are now thinking about migrate your IT infrastructure to the cloud, cost is something that for sure you need to be mindful of. So as part of this project, of course, Yash was able to exercise his skills not only around systems architecture, but also as a DevOps professional. Okay. Now, those are just some examples. Again, if you want to look at the whole list of projects completed on the last few years, remember to go back to our wiki and you will find all the information you need there. Okay, you can explore those projects from a QA perspective, from a documentation perspective, and so forth. All right. Okay, let's just check one more time here if we have any questions. Okay, we have an ECL question.
Yeah, there's been a couple questions. The team has answered them, but if you want to read them and add any more insight, that would be wonderful.
Okay. Let me see here. It's on the Q&A portion.
Yeah, I can read it to you. The first question was, can rising 10th graders apply? And George posted that response that any work authorized student from high school to PhD that can work 40 hours per week during the 12 weeks of the internship program is initially eligible.
Perfect.
If you wanted to add more comment there.
Yeah, and I know sometimes people are concerned about their precise stage on the academic life or even about their age. But I guess the key point here for everyone trying to apply to this program is their proposal. So irrespective, not trying to be so radical here, but irrespective of your age, what we will take into consideration is your proposal and the feasibility of you acquiring those skills during the tenure of the internship. So yeah, so thanks George for replying that.
And Hugo, we just had something else in the chat. Anirudh had asked, I'm looking for a data science internship for summer 2023.
All right. So we have right now 4 projects around data science, if will, or machine learning. Recently, most of our focus has been on 2 main areas. First, causality. So just like we saw the project from Arun, we are still developing ideas around causality. Right now, one of our main concerns is to make sure our causality toolkit has as many validation options as there are researchers proposing them. And the second area of interest is using generative artificial intelligence on a parallel distributed fashion, which is, of course, the core characteristic of HPCC systems. But if you really want to know more about those projects, I will, as part of the follow-up email, send you everyone the link for the available projects. If we have time here, I can quickly go through them. And you will see that as part of our wiki, we have the description not only of the project idea, but also around the skill sets and the contact person that you can reach out to clarify any questions. Right. Good questions.
The ECL, yeah, sorry. The ECL question, Bob did answer, but I didn't know if either one of you wanted to expound more, but it sounds like
he or she is in good hands with Bob. So, okay, so let's keep moving them. And now that we know a little bit about, or way more about internship program and what are the outcomes these students achieve with us, let's see how they are able to achieve that, okay? And here on this slide, I will try to cover what is the internship project lifecycle, all right? And I like to think about the internship project in 4 main stages. First one, we call it onboarding and welcome. So by the time you are approved to intern with us, usually a couple of weeks before the day 1 of your internship, we'll be in touch, we'll contact you, and start working on your infrastructure and your accesses, okay? We'll also provide you any training material that we think you need as part of your project. And then on the day one of the internship, we'll have a welcome meeting where you'll have the opportunity to meet your mentor live, even though you might be interacting with the mentor for a while now. All right. Once that first stage is done, we have what we call the development phase. This is usually where the bulk of work is located. It might last approximately 10 weeks from your internship. Remember, we're talking about a 12-week internship, so most of the work is really here. And as part of the development phase, we hold daily meetings. So you have the opportunity to talk to your mentor every day and make sure that you have all the resources at hand to complete the work that is objectived for that day, right? This is actually where you do most of your code development. And of course, as part of the code development, there will be a lot of troubleshooting, a lot of testing. Remember, this internship I have not mentioned, but much probably you will be working with mentors from a research and development department. So those projects are really exploratory in nature. And we encourage you to write blog reports throughout your journey with us. Not just because you can communicate outside the company your achievements, but most importantly, you can reflect about your own growth throughout the process, your own learning process, okay? Once we approach the end of your internship, that's usually what we call the completion phase. It might last 1 or 2 weeks, the final 1 or 2 weeks. That's when we ask you to check in any code you have developed and any documentation that you might have in place. And also, that's the point in time we start communicating the world about your achievements. We do that internally, inviting you to present the outcomes of your project to our internal teams, and you will have the opportunity of receiving very constructive feedback from the team, something that for sure will help you with your professional career. And we also ask you to build a poster outlining your achievements, okay? Why is that? Because later down the year, usually around the month of October, after your internship project is done, we invite you to come back and join us on our annual conference. Yes, we do have an annual conference for the HPCC Systems open source community. We call it the HPCC Systems Community Day. And as part of that event, we run a poster competition where you have the opportunity of get together back with the interns and students from all across the world. And your poster will be evaluated not only by a panel of specialists, but also by the open source community, and you can run for prizes, right? And of course, you are more than welcome to give a talk during that event. This is something the interns have been doing on the past few years, something they end up enjoying a lot. And again, always thinking on your professional careers, always thinking on giving you not only the possibility of acquiring hard skills, technical skills, but also soft skills such as teamwork, communication, and so forth. All right. Okay, so now that you know or have an idea of what the program is and the outcomes and how the interns are able to achieve those outcomes, the last question might be, how do I apply to the program? And that's why I have this last slide right here. So our application process has only 3 main steps, okay? The first step is you need to decide on your individual project, okay? Like I mentioned before, one of the prerequisites is to submit a proposal, and to submit a proposal, of course, you need to select a project up front. Now, that doesn't need to be a daunting process, if you will, because we do provide you a list of available projects. So I was just referring to it while replying the question around data science projects. So in our wiki page, we make public a list of available projects that the mentors themselves have already suggested as potential areas of interest. But you don't need to stick with only those options. If for some reason you already have your own idea, feel free to submit it as well. So especially perhaps for those students already pursuing a master's or a PhD degree, if you already have some research track established, you might want to leverage that knowledge as part of the internship. So you are more than welcome to submit your own proposal. And on top of that, if you already have a supervisor, a professor helping you with your master's or PhD, he or she is also welcome to join our program as a commenter. Okay? Now, once you have selected your idea, it's time for you to write your proposal. And again, we are not here to challenge you to write something. The idea is to understand what are your aspirations and make sure we can fulfill them accordingly. And to be clear, we don't have any formal templates for you to use as part of your proposal, because again, we are not interested in making this a hard evaluation requirement. But we do have guidelines that we encourage you to follow. The first one is highlight your deliverables. Okay, so make sure you explicitly mention what are the elements or the objectives you are trying to achieve. And here on the right side, I have a picture from a sample proposal. And as you can see here, the student listed a couple of deliverables. Again, you don't need to be that comprehensive. The list will vary according to your level of knowledge on that topic. But if you're not really sure about what all the deliverables will be, you are always welcome to submit a wish list that you may or may not achieve depending on how the project goes. Okay, so this is an interesting tip. Second guideline, remember to provide a rough schedule of your internship. So now that you know the deliverables you want to achieve, remember to put a timeline around it. And again, I have another example here showing, for each core activity, if you will, when that activity falls within those 12 weeks. Why is that? 12 weeks pass by really quick. So if you know upfront what is the work you're going to execute on each one of those weeks, chances are you will be able to finalize your project even ahead of time. Right? Now, you might be thinking, well, this is becoming complex. I never write a proposal before. I know. So that's why the third guideline here is don't write your proposal alone. Interact with your mentor. In other words, as soon as you have decided on what project you want to pursue, say hi to your mentor. The mentor contact information will be there on our wiki. And provide the mentor a first draft, a first idea of what you're trying to complete as part of the internship program. The mentor will give you feedback. Our mentors are available to give you that feedback. And after a couple of iterations, you end up with a finalized proposal that you can finally submit as part of your application process. Okay. And talking about the application itself, all you have to do by the time you are satisfied with your proposal, and of course you have already interacted with your mentor, send us your proposal along with your resume to this email address right here, students@hpccsystems.com, and we'll take it from there. What happens after your proposal is submitted? We take the proposal to a panel of mentors, a panel of specialists, and they will evaluate the feasibility of your proposal from the perspective of how much they can offer you, and of course, how much they think you can achieve that based on your current skill sets and the ones you need to acquire, and then come back to you either with a feedback so you can adjust your proposal or with an approval notice. Okay, so there are no formal interviews, there are no knowledge exams. All that we need from you as part of the application is your proposal, right? That's how we can be so flexible in terms of eligibility criteria. All right. Okay, so this is actually the last slide about requirements and processes. The last slide of the presentation actually is this one that contains some pictures from all the interns that have joined us in recent years. Not all of them are here. Well, this is still work in progress material, to be honest. And I'm still looking for pictures from the older classes. But very important, they are here to make a call to action. They are here to invite you to be part of this team and make your mark just like they did, which is, by the way, the ultimate goal of the HPCC Systems Internship Program. We want to allow these students to acquire the skills they need to enter the big data IT industry at the end of the day. All right. So with that, I think we can formally turn over to questions and answers. During the questions and answers, I will leave this slide here on the screen because it contains my personal email. So feel free to reach out. Of course, use this opportunity as much as possible to clarify your question. But if you end up remembering something later, I'm always available to answer your question via email as well. And for sure, we'll have a lot of opportunities for interacting afterwards as well. Okay, so let's go back to the questions and answers and see what else we have left to be answered.
Hugo, it's been brought to our attention that not all the attendees can see the Q&A icon.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
it is enabled, but maybe it's a Teams version issue or a browser version issue, and they have to be updated to the latest. But you know, with that said, if you can you see the Q&A? We have been
I do.
answering.
Yes.
Okay,
I do.
so
I see. Let me see here. New posts. Let me start from the bottom, to be honest.
Okay, sure.
So I see a question about anomalies and outliers. Okay. There are 2 comments. Oh, okay. It's already answered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. And I can add on top of that answer. We do have several tools or libraries that can help you with that. I'm not exactly sure who posed the question, but if you're interested in removing outliers from your raw data, you can always do that on the first stage of the ETL process. We have a library called data patterns that can help you extract very rapidly a descriptive statistics from your data. And afterwards, depending on the machine learning algorithm you're trying to use, of course, the outlier treatment will differ from one machine learning algorithm to the other. But we do have some other tools in our machine learning core plugin that can also help you deal with that. And if I recall correctly, in previous years, there was a student project totally dedicated to anomaly detection. Remember to go back to our wiki, and if I'm not mistaken, 2021 is when we had that project. Okay. We've already answered the question around the 10th graders, and I have one question around from Omar. Are they regular internship out of the one from the summer? Oh, Trish already replied. Yes, so the HPCC Systems internship only runs during the summer. But corporate-wise, you might find other opportunities as well. They are a little bit different in the sense, I would say it's not a mentor-based program, but you might find other opportunities corporate-wise, if you will. And I see another question, as HPCC systems is open source, is this program associated with Google Summer of Code, or is this internship program a separate program? Yeah, so Trish already responded. We model it after it, but it does run separately. I guess the only year we run together was 2015, but since then we are running separately. One question from Serena. All right, what is the pay rate for this internship? Very good question, Serena. And our pay rate varies according to the country where you are located, and also your current grade in academia. So if you are a high school student, you receive something. If you are a undergraduate, a different value, and so forth. I can say that if you are in the US, our pay ranges go from $6,000 for the entire internship up to $1,200 and something. Those are values from last year, by the way, reference from last year. They might switch a little. But depending on where you are on that academic rate, you will get something from $6,000 up to $1,200 for the entire 12-week internship. And remember, this is for the ones, for the students located in the US. If for some reason you are located on a different region, feel free to send me a separate email with your country of residence, and I will confirm the value more precisely. Right? Hiroki, when writing a proposal, do we also include the preparation phase with training as well? Well, Hiroki, it's actually up to you. We never know, for instance, how much the student submitting something, how much knowledge he has on the technology or the skills we will need him to acquire as part of the project. I would say that training requirements are not mandatory when you're writing your proposal, but for sure, as soon as you submit something, we'll try to make sure you have those skill sets. And if we realize that you don't, then we will provide you training resources as well. That's why I think training is good for you to make that reflection. But in case you're not able to find any training resources up front, be aware that we will also be covering that front by the time you submit your proposal. Okay. I think those were all the questions on the Q&A session, but Trish, you mentioned there were some questions on the chat. I can switch over to the chat as well.
Yeah, we've been trying to answer those as they come along.
All right. And let me go from the bottom then. How do I access the wiki? Yeah, that's the page. I can click on it since we have the link on the chat. And I think I promised you that I will do a quick overview of the wiki. So this is our landing page of the wiki. Like I told you, you can not only see the recordings we have about the program, but you can also see the whole history about the internship program. I know someone asked me about this in the past, for how long we have been running the program, and we have been running it formally since 2015, okay? So it's a very mature program, if you will. And one perhaps very interesting branch of the wiki is this one, available projects. So this is the section where you can look at the ideas that some of the mentors have already proactively listed. And I remember someone asking me about the machine learning or data science focus projects. So those are the 4 projects that are right now suggested from the mentors. But again, if you have something differently, feel free to submit your own proposal, okay? Just to give a brief overview, we have a branch here for data scientists. But if you're willing to work with systems architecture, we have another set of projects right here. If you're more like a person willing to work with QA or test and automation, infrastructure as a code, we do have a series of projects on that area of expertise, and also documentation, branding, and finally, natural language processing, okay? One area where people are also usually concerned is by connecting HPCC systems with some other technology. So we have a separate branch also for projects that people might want to pursue just because they want to connect HPCC systems with some other data store, with some other database. So we have a branch separated for these kinds of projects, right? Let me switch over. Oh, thank you, George. George provided the anomaly detection project. Yep. So Anirudh was asking, what is the stipend one gets, and what are the locations to work in HPCC internship program? So I think I just replied about the pay rates, but the locations, Anirudh. So we are readily available to support interns in the US, some countries of Europe and Asia. If for some reason you are located outside of those countries, feel free to get in touch. On our side, I need to confirm that our hiring company, our external hiring company, has partners in the country where you are located to support us on the hiring process and with all the payment bureaucracy. Very important point, if you are located in any country around the world, make sure, be aware that most of our mentors are located in the US or in the UK, which means they speak English as their primary language. So some level of spoken and written English is needed, and also be mindful of your work, your time zones. Sorry. So Hiroki, I think we've answered your question around preparation phase with training. So no, it's not required. We'll probably provide you that input. I think those are all the questions I see on the chat, Trish. I'm not sure if you see something else.
I have not. I think you covered them all. And I apologize. Some of you are saying, and I don't see it either, the raise hand icon is missing. So I don't know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know if we just want to maybe open it, if anyone wants to turn on their mic.
If they click on reactions, the hand pops up.
Oh, there it is. It's buried under there. Okay.
Yeah, and then Hugo, we have one more question from Patience Jones. The question is in the Q&A, do we need lots of prior knowledge, or will we learn what we need mostly within the internship?
Very good question. I think this is actually one of the most common questions. We are always flexible from that standpoint. Bear in mind, this is an internship program, right? If we wanted you to know everything up front, we would probably be talking about full-time positions. So internship is an opportunity for you to learn from real-world experience. So although some previous knowledge around computer science, around programming is welcome, it's not mandatory. We have had some cases in the past where ECL was the first programming language that the person was learning as part of her internship or his internship, and the student was pretty much successful. So I guess the most important aspect, if you don't have any previous knowledge on IT, is your willingness and dedication to acquire those skills within the time frame of the internship project. And that's where the mentor input will be really important, because the mentor is usually an expert on the area you are trying to work, and he will be able to look at your current skill sets, look at how much you need to learn, and look at the timeline of your internship and tell you, you know what, I don't think we can do it, or maybe we can do it if you start receiving training before the actual day one. So that's why we really like this proposal type of application, because it allows us to identify those gaps really early in the process and work around them as much as possible. So going back to your question, feel free to submit your proposal even if you have no previous experience with ECL, HPCC, or computing overall. Okay. And speaking on training, Bob has just posted in the chat a link for our online classes. So probably most of you applying to this internship program will deal or will touch our open source programming language, which is called ECL, Enterprise Control Language. And bear in mind, we do have a very rich training content around ECL. So Bob and Richard, who are here, are our main instructors in ECL. And as part of your training phase, most probably you will be having access and attending some of their online content, which is available for free in our main website. Okay.
And Hugo, if I may be so bold to interrupt, I wanted to mention that we have remote training classes in May. So I know our policy, and Trish, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I know our policy for 2023 is to offer these classes to our academic people free of charge. And I will be leading the classes in May. So if you reach out to us and have a desire, since the internship program starts in the summer, the May classes would be ideal for any of you that want to learn the platform and want to learn the language to get a head start on the internship 12-week program by enrolling in these classes. And they're conducted remotely via Teams, and they are the classes are 2 days in length, and they are also recorded. So if you miss a session, you can go back and watch at a later time. So if you just reach out to us at the training at hpccsystems.com and you're interested in enrolling, we can give you the promotion code to bypass the course costs and get right in and get your training and get up to speed prior to the internship program.
Perfect.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hugo.
That's a very good experience. And as you can see, we all work very collaboratively in this team. So if you have a need around training, if you have a need around any specific item, we'll all get together to help you throughout your internship. So that's a very key differential, I would say, in our program. We have another question from Anirudh. Will the company cover our expenses if we work on site for the internship? Anirudh, you will not get paid more if you opt for the on-site internship, but we will arrange for basic infrastructure so you can accomplish your internship on the site, which means you will have a place in the office, but we won't be able to cover commuting costs, if you will. If you are too far away from one of our offices, I would recommend going with remote option. Okay. Chandra is asking if the meeting is being recorded. Yes, it is, and we have our content expert here, George, who will be editing and providing you the recording soon. Yep. All right, I think those were all the questions I could see on the chat. Last call, at least for the info session, in case someone wants to ask something. Online where? Chandra?
It'll be posted on the wiki. Yeah.
The recording, it will post it on the wiki, but you will receive a link to the recording. And I think we also post on the YouTube channel, right, Trish? George?
Yes. Yep. George posted those very early up in the chat. I can scroll up and paste them again.
I'll grab them and post them down again. Yeah.
Thank
Perfect.
you.
All right. Okay, so if there are no more questions, perhaps I have one. After this presentation, can you perhaps tell me who from the audience is willing to submit an application anytime soon? You can raise your hand or maybe put something on the chat, just so I have an idea.
Or even considering it.
See, 5, yeah, good.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and remember, some more. Okay, and remember, don't be afraid of submitting your application. I think this is the #1 tip I give. I should give you, because I know our process is a little bit different from the perspective you need to put the proposal, but again, it doesn't need to be a work by yourself. We have many resources in place to help you throughout this process. So any questions, the minimal concern you might have, feel free to reach out to me and we will take your cases individually. All right? Okay, Trish, I think this is all I had for today. I would like to thank everyone for, again, joining the session. It's really a pleasure to share this content with you, and looking forward to see your emails and applications coming. Thank you.
Thanks all.